Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fourmation podcast. This is episode 3. If you haven't seen episode 1 and 2, where have you been is the question I would ask. We are 4 football journalism students. I am George and I'm joined by...
Harry.
Sam.
Devon.
Yeah, that worked a lot better than last week.
A lot better.
First hurdle overcome.
Come on.
As I mentioned, this is our 3rd episode. If you want to listen to episodes 1 and 2, you can find us on YouTube, you can find us on Spotify, you can find us on Anchor. There's all sorts of platforms that you can find us. If there's any others which you choose to listen to your podcasts on, you can find them on our Twitter page, which is @_Fourmation, or on our Facebook, which is just type in the Fourmation. That's it, isn't it? Is that where they can find us? Anything else to add, guys?
Yes, and if you love our voices that much, you can listen to us just every single day on every single platform.
Just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, please do let us know whenever you're listening. If you've got any ideas for what you'd like us to discuss, let us know on all of those platforms. For today, we've got a lot of interesting topics to talk about. Morgan Gibbs-White, the Wolves player, has been in the news this week. We'll talk about that a bit later on. We'll also chat about a few transfer rumours. We spoke a few about that last week, but there's some more which have come up in the news over the last week. But first of all, I'll hand over to Devon. Devon, do you want to start us off on where some of the European leagues are at in terms of restarting the season in this really strange time?
Yeah, I think strange is a very big understatement. The exciting news is the obviously impendiment of Serie A announcing that they are set to start on June 13th. This brings a little bit of pressure onto the Premier League, who are still yet to make a decision, although Boris's questionable, unclear speech on Sunday suggested, and then on the Monday when it was explained a bit more, seems like that in June, especially in England, competitions may resume behind closed doors, which puts again more pressure on the Premier League. And also the EFL have also come out in a statement after their meeting, stating their intent to start the season again soon. We'll probably get news on this in the coming week. There's always football news at the minute, so stay tuned next week. Plug it already. But first of all, we have the football gods have spoken, and we do have football coming back this weekend. It's the Bundesliga, a league that's being predominantly dominated by Bayern Munich. However, there's only a 5-point gap between them and third, and a 4-point gap between them and second. We're going to dive into some of the fixtures today, talk about the Bundesliga. Everyone's becoming German experts at the minute, but maybe we're going to have to try as best.
Say experts, yeah. Let's not hang on us.
Don't put unnecessary pressure on us, please.
But yeah, well, the big game, and what a game to get back thrown into the deep end. It's the Riviera Derby. It's Borussia Dortmund versus Schalke. Boys, what an interesting tie to get straight back into it.
Definitely one to watch out for. Obviously, BT are showing all the games, so you've got a choice really. But I think most people will be going for that one for the 2:30 kickoff. Obviously, Dortmund were in great form before the break, won 4 of their last 5 league games, and Schalke the opposite, really, winless in 6. So I don't know how much you can look into the form books with obviously these strange times within such a huge break. I don't know how much the form table will matter in this sort of situation, especially because it's a derby. Mm-hmm. The pressure's heightened and everything else. So, yeah, a good one to watch out for.
My interest in this game specifically has gone up after I read in the Times last week an interview with Henry Winter. He interviewed David Wagner, the former Huddersfield manager, who's obviously the Schalke manager now. And I wasn't really sure on the height of this rivalry before, but that kind of explained it pretty well. Wagner was saying to Henry Winter about how in an empty stadium, the whole dynamic of this derby and the physicality, and obviously with the situation that's gone on and all sorts of regulations about wearing masks on the bench and whatever, I'm really interested to see how that will pan out, because, you know, it's a situation none of these players have played in before, right? They might have played European away games before, because that occasionally happens, but it is going to be a really strange one, but hopefully an exciting one to watch as well.
In particular, the Dortmund yellow wall are integral behind that Dortmund momentum. And, you know, you could see them struggle. Sancho was a little bit of a doubt, but his 14 goals and 15 assists have been crucial for Dortmund's season. They've also won they've got a winning percentage of 57% with Sancho starting for Dortmund. If he is out, or if anything happens to Haaland, you can't really see where the goals might come from.
Yeah, you mentioned Haaland, just fantastic since he's come to Dortmund, 9 goals in 8 appearances, which is just crazy. What do you think about him, Harry?
Yeah, people weren't too sure whether he'd make that such a quick adaptation. Did he score a hat-trick on his debut, or maybe his first or second appearance? He's adapted so well to, you know, such a higher quality level of league. But for me, I could see him doing it, because he did it in the Champions League. He scored against Liverpool despite the fact that they lost 4-3. For me, overall, this game is all about which players have been the most professional, you know, on their days off, because I think everyone's sort of hit the restart button. Everyone's been out for 2 months. Schalke are closer to 15th than they are to second place Dortmund, despite the fact they're 6th. But for me, it's all about, you know, who's been that most professional, who's done the hardest work in, you know, personal training, maybe a bit of team training as well. So yeah, like Sam said earlier, form's sort of out the window when it's almost a new season, despite the fact we're 25 games in.
With Haaland, do you think, obviously, when he's been playing in the Champions League, there's been all sorts of other big players on show at the same time, whereas now the Bundesliga is the first league back. It's going to be watched in countries across Europe, probably in the world as well. How big of an opportunity is this to, I was going to say, put himself in the shop window? Maybe it's not a case of that, because he's already at Dortmund and he's not been there long, but he's been touted with huge moves and huge fees. So how big of an opportunity is it for him?
Oh, most certainly, because normally Germany have their eyes on the Bundesliga. Now everyone in the world has their eyes on the Bundesliga, and he's going to start up front in the biggest match in probably about 2.5 months. Because, you know, otherwise, apart from the South Korean K-League, there's not been any other fixtures. And I think he knows himself, and the club knows himself how good he is, because I think he's got a release clause that starts in 2021 of 64 million. So they know they're only going to have him for 2 years before he goes to Real Madrid, to Barcelona. And for me, yeah, he'll probably be the matcher in this one if Dortmund are able to get the win.
I think with you mentioning Haaland putting him in shop window, I think it's more about the aforementioned Jadon Sancho with, you know, with Man United and Chelsea sniffing around him. This is a perfect opportunity to be put on a pedestal, ready for, you know, any attracting bids that want to come in. And, you know, with them 2 young lads, you think, you know, Sancho didn't come in for much, if anything, to Dortmund from City. And obviously, we're a tuppence for Haaland. The resale value for that is just what Dortmund could need financially with this little bit of a stumbling block in the last few months. And with them not getting the crowds and the revenue in, this in the long term could help them massively and put them above a lot of other teams.
And it goes without saying, because it's a derby, but the stakes are obviously huge. Dortmund chasing Bayern Munich, hoping to stop them from securing how many titles in a row is it now, like 7 or 8? And obviously Schalke in 6th chasing Europe, so the stakes are bigger than ever. Go on, George.
One thing that I think will suit Schalke is David Wagner's, you know, negativity towards tactics and flow that we saw kind of at Huddersfield. And if he could frustrate that forward line, then it's a struggle to see where they might, you know, get them pockets of space in order to, you know, penetrate and score.
If we're talking about familiar faces for our English football fans in the Schalke team, and Everton fans will be particularly interested in this game because of this. Their low knee, John Joe Kenny, plays for Schalke. I think he's made 40 appearances for Everton before. Presumably went out on loan to Schalke to try and give himself a boost and hopefully come back and get into that Everton team. So it could be interesting to see. I think he showed some promise when seeing him in the Premier League before. I maybe didn't watch him that much, but do you think he's capable of coming back to the Prem at some point? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the Bundesliga has become a bit of a breeding ground for young English players. Obviously, you've got John Joe Kenny, as you mentioned, Ademola Lookman, and Ethan Ampadu, I don't know how to say his name, at Leipzig, and of course Jadon Sancho at Dortmund. So I think, yeah, it's been tried. Obviously, Reece Nelson as well recently with Hoffenheim. So I think, yeah, the Bundesliga has been a great league for young English players to prove their worth. And I'm sure if John Joe Kenny keeps up his performances at Schalke, then he'll fit right into the Everton side when he returns.
The thing is, for me, loads of people talk about they're going to go there to show their worth and then come back to the Premier League. Why don't they just stay there? I know it sounds stupid, but Jadon Sancho is having a great time at Borussia Dortmund. It's not like they're a 12th place side that, he's just getting some first team football. He's become a world beater since he's been there. Reece Oxford's been there for however many years. He was a real promise, and now he stayed in Germany for a bit of time at Gladbach and now at Augsburg. For me, John Joe Kenny, he's at Schalke. At Everton, that much of an upgrade. If he's getting that first team football, I don't know how much he's really played, but if he is getting first team football, he may as well stay there because, they might get Europa League, and it doesn't look that likely that Everton will.
So this one finished 0-0 in the reverse fixture back in October. We spoke about Haaland. He wasn't playing that day, of course, because he wasn't a Dortmund player. With him in the team this time, I know he hasn't played in long, but is he going to break his duck? Is he going to score? Well, it's not a case of breaking his duck. Breaking the duck in his fixture. Will he score? What will the score be?
Statistically, he is bound to score, isn't he? With more goals than games at the minute. It just depends how the problem is that a lot of them are doing individual training, which means the match fitness just won't be sharp. So we could see a very poor opening weekend, or we could see a goal fest. And I think maybe, and we know Dortmund, I think when they last played Leverkusen, I think they lost 4-3 or something like that, and then they're known to concede quite a number of goals. So I'm going to go for a 3-2 win for Dortmund. Sam?
I'll go 3-1 Dortmund. I think they have too much Schalke, personally.
Yeah, I'll go 3-1. I think they're 4 points behind Munich, so they've still got a good chance of winning the league if they can get some form put together. So yeah, 3-1 Dortmund for me.
And I think I'll kind of follow what I did when we used to do the radio show. If you didn't listen, we'd occasionally do predictions on there. I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to say it's going to be a draw. I'm going to say 2-2. We'll say, because we're all learning about these teams, aren't we? We might have seen them play in Europe occasionally, but it's a difficult one to predict. And I think the bookmakers this weekend might well have a good one because there's a load of English fans who haven't had a bet.
All itching away.
Cashing in.
You did mention the being, so many points away from Munich, and probably the team in the top three that's got the best running on paper is Leipzig.
Oh, nice link.
They've got
segues.
Sam, you're a Vavel writer. Just to promote your work a bit. Tell us about.
Thank you, Devin.
Tell us about Julian Nagelsmann's men.
Yeah, Julian Nagelsmann, a fantastic young coach at Leipzig. Obviously, they started the season brilliantly. They scored at least one goal in their first 18 games, which is a prolific goal-scoring record. And with players like Timo Werner, Marcel Sabitzer, and Christopher Nkunku, then you're going to have an easy time of it scoring goals. But I say that, they have struggled a bit. They did struggle a bit before the break. They only won 2 of their last 7 games in the league leading up to the break. So obviously, like I said before, with the huge break that we've had, we don't know how much form will play a part in these opening games, but we'll have to wait and see, of course.
It's kind of almost like a pre-season, and we're starting the season again. And if you go back to the start of the season, Freiburg, they won the first 3 away games, but since then they've only just won 1 of the next subsequent 10. And they're only 1 point above the European spots, which would be a big achievement if Freiburg continued to, push for Europe. But I think Leipzig are too strong. Harry, what do you think?
I must say, I've got, as much as a lot of Germany aren't a big fan of Leipzig because of the way they pushed up the leagues. I've got a soft spot because obviously Mr. Ralph Hasenhuttl used to manage there. But like I said, I think they've got too much. They're an exciting team. They're a young team, and they've been able to keep some of their best players for an extended period of time. And now they've got Nagelsmann at the helm. Most people didn't expect him to do well, but maybe not as quickly as he's done, as how successful he's been in such a quick amount of time. So, yeah, they are probably going to win this game, and I probably, pretty comfortably, I'd say.
That trio that I mentioned earlier, Werner, Sabitzer, and Nkunku, have got 57 goal contributions between them. So the big thing for... Oh, go on.
No, go on. I was
just going to say that the big thing for Leipzig, obviously, when the season comes to an end, is whether they'll be able to keep them. Obviously, Timo Werner's flirted heavily with Liverpool, especially after they knocked Tottenham out. Of course, he said he was proud to be linked to the team like Liverpool. So that's the big question mark for them. Obviously, if they're able to push Bayern and potentially win the league, I mean, they're still in it, only 5 points behind. That might be enough to tempt them to stay, but we'll see.
Is there a concern? Oh, yeah, here you go.
You also mentioned Ademola Lookman as well for Leipzig, who formerly of Everton as well. How important is he to the way they play, or is he more of a impact player? I don't know. Can you give us a bit on him?
I believe he's not had the same impact that he did when he went on loan earlier on, because, of course, of the players that I've mentioned, but they play such a fast counter-attacking style under Nagelsmann. I watched this little 4-minute clip that showed loads of their goals and highlights, and it's evident to see how they score their goals they're so quick on the counter-attack. I think Werner's underrated in terms of his pace. So obviously Lookman, when he does come on from the bench, I don't think he's started many games, but when he comes on from the bench with his pace, he fits right into that style.
He partially concerns that they're getting closer and closer to a league title, but they've not actually won anything. Are you concerned they might become a Monaco in the fact that they've got a load of good young players and they might just all get stolen and then drop through the league to maybe 12th or 13th in a couple of years' time? Or do you think they've got the power to say, no, we're going to keep our best players and we're going to win stuff here?
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned before, that's definitely going to be a problem. And obviously, at one point they did lead. They had a lead over Bayern. I think they had a 4-point lead, and towards the end, coming up to the break, I think it was like a 9-point swing that Bayern got on them. So they've definitely got to show more composure, definitely, towards the end of the season.
The thing with Leipzig as well, you mentioned the players going. If they've got that sustainable model of, there's a young player, we'll bring him in, that allows that one to go off and this one to develop. And if they can keep that model going, a bit like what Southampton had, if they can keep making money that way, as well as pumping money in from the owners and the, Red Bull, this could be a sustainable impact for years to come. And, the main competitor, and probably that we're all going to sit in a few weeks' time and be really disappointed by, is Bayern Munich, who are the league leaders, and if anything of history to go by, 4 points is probably too much to give Bayern in especially over a 9-game period. They face Union Berlin. Does anyone want to kick us off with this game?
I have just checked, and they are up for their 8th Bundesliga title in a row and 30th in total. So I think that's just shown their dominance over recent times. Yeah, I'll pass it over to someone else to talk more about the game.
What I found staggering when I was looking through Bayern is Lewandowski, I know he's done it for years, and that is partly down to the reason why they've continued to defend their title. 25 goals, which is an average of 82 minutes per goal, that's more than a goal a game, isn't it?
I mean, he scored 5 goals in 9 minutes once, so I think that's just.
I feel like you don't seem to see that kind of rate in the Premier League at any point. I know players have done it before. Salah a couple of years ago, I think he scored 32 and 38 in the end. But I think Lewandowski, the fact he does it consistently. All right, we've had a break, but I think he's likely to score. If you're talking betting tips, it would probably be him to score any time. Just to get that in there. Not that we're encouraging gambling, but
have you got a secret sponsor or something? Have Paddy Power knocked on your door this morning?
That heads the green top. Yeah. No, of course they haven't. But Alphonso Davies as well is another player we should probably talk about. Really young. Can you see him playing in the Premier League? He's obviously been linked, but what do we think of him?
It just depends how Bayern operate. Again, it's it depends how attractive the offer is and what guaranteed game time they can give him. As long as he can kick on his career and not spend too long doing TikToks and stuff like that. Yeah. He's certainly got a promising career ahead of him. You know, there's still people, especially in Canada, that they're putting him as one of the best that they've already had. And you know, the only other notable Canadian player that comes to mind is Jonathan de Guzman. Other than that,
Junior Hoylett.
Oh, Hoylett or David.
Scott Arfield, was he? No, Scottish. I'm just going on a rant of Canadians, but for me,
between Davis, De Guzman, and then Arfield down here.
I think if I'm not mistaken, he has just signed a long-term contract with Bayern to 2025 or something. So he seems pretty committed to them at the moment. He's got obviously quite an inspiring story. There was an article on The Athletic about him recently about growing up in refugee camps in Ghana or Liberia, and obviously working his way to Canada with the Vancouver Whitecaps, and now to Bayern, where he's been really good for them. Obviously, that standout performance at Stamford Bridge, where he set up a couple and really tore Chelsea's defence to shreds. So he seems pretty committed to Bayern at the moment, but we could see him make a big money move in the future, surely.
And why would players want to move from Bayern at the minute as well? They're still in a bit of a transition period, because a lot of the players there's a mix between old and new, and they are slowly making that bridge away from, you know, like Thomas Muller, even though he's not that old, but them kind of players, and these ones are coming through. You know, Flick has made a really good job of it since taking over from Kovac. And you know, in 2020 they're unbeaten and they've won 10 out of 11. You can't see any other outcome really than and especially the main thing this weekend, and what we've said, is that the team, especially in that top three, first team to slip up. If you don't win your first game, you're more than likely to slip up. Which if Munich get off to a good start, then they'll just fly.
I do think this weekend is going to be a really important one because, like you say, haven't played in so long, and Bayern are playing Dortmund. Is it in about 10 days' time? It's not very long at all. So if one of them was to slip up, say if Munich were to draw this weekend, it just opens the door, doesn't it? And there are still points available. So
I think Munich have won the last 2 games against Dortmund 4 or 5-0 though. But obviously, who knows how much the form table will mean.
I think if I'm looking at a team to trust to win games, I'd give it Bayern Munich 99 times out of 100 rather than Dortmund or Leipzig. Well, 98 times out of 100 in those sort of mathematics. But I see Dortmund and Leipzig dropping points against the 13th, 14th, 15th teams in the league rather than Bayern Munich. You rarely ever see them drop points. So for me, as frustrating as it is, because you love seeing new winners of the league, it's got to be Bayern Munich, I've got to say.
Another interesting clash this weekend, which we should maybe mention, is Werder Bremen against Leverkusen, which comes on the Monday evening. So this will be after everyone has played. They'll have been able to take their pick, have a bit more time to prepare maybe. There's one man who I'm thinking of. I'm sure you've probably all got him written down as well.
Kevin Volland.
Kevin Volland, yeah. More goal contributions.
Havertz scored 2 in this same fixture away at Bremen last year when Leverkusen won 6-2. Are they likely to come up with such a good result again this weekend?
Probably.
Undefeated in 10 in all competitions. So I think that's an indication of, and obviously they're at home, but I don't know how much that'll mean, of course, with no fans, but I think that's an indication of how this game might go.
One thing you've got to look at as well, Bremen are down there hovering, you know, around the drop zones. Leverkusen have collected the third most points in 2020 in the Bundesliga with 19. One player that's been integral, and if Josh Goodman's watching, he'll be absolutely loving this that we've mentioned. But is it Havertz?
Havertz, yeah.
I'd say Havertz, but
what a
not
talent.
the expert.
He is, he scored and assisted in his previous 6 games in 2020, because definitely stats written down here. 688 minutes, 8 appearances, 4 goals and 4 assists, but he's really been catching the eye like a lot of these young German talents have been. If anyone wants to follow that up.
I think Kevin Volland's another one to mention, that Leverkusen team. 9 goals, 7 assists this season. He's another one to look out for, not just Havertz.
Yeah.
Another player related to this game who we've been astounded at that he's still playing. We should definitely give this man a mention. And if you remember collecting match attacks for the Premier League from about 2006, then you'll probably know this name, Claudio Pizarro, former Chelsea and Bayern man. He still plays for Werder Bremen. How old is he?
Very.
41 years old,
yeah.
And he's still playing. Although, Devon, did you mention he's maybe a doubt for this weekend, so we might have to wait to see him don the boots again?
I mean, he's always a doubt at that age.
I think he picked up a hamstring injury as he came back, but I should have done some digging, because in my attic I've got all my old match attacks, and he's definitely up there somewhere. So I should have wrote him down. I think it were at 2007-8 the first match attacks. This is a massive nerd fest, isn't it? When we're talking about, I think if we're going on more players that they've got, ex Everton David Claessen's over there as well.
He's terrible. He was at Everton as well, wasn't he?
He's kind of reignited his season. But we're talking about youth talents, and a lot of this next month watching the Bundesliga, if it's a sole competition until the Premier League or Serie A get back underway, is the amount of young talents that are going to be on show for us to watch. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a lot of German exports in the next few seasons in the Premier League. One player that's been linked to a lot of clubs is one player I should mention that's not really been in Kofeld's. Again, we said that butchering names are going to be it. In his Peter Bosch, so in his side is Leon Bale, who was tipped for an England call at that time. Leverkusen prefer that is it Vendel, who's a left back. They play him more on the left wing, leaving Leon Bailey to be benched. But if he could come on and show his worth, he might be able to force his way into the Premier League. Does anyone else see the talent that Leon Bailey has?
If I'm honest, I can't say that I have watched him play too many times, but he is a name. We're going to come on to a few transfer rumours in a bit, but he is a name who you always see in the rumour mill. So he's definitely one I'm looking forward to watching play. And hopefully finding out just how
No,
good.
no doubt he won't pick England when it comes to
I know.
international.
He's
That
got.
always seems to be the case.
I mean, I think he's got connections to Germany, Belgium, Jamaica, and England. He's got quite a broad spectrum to pick from. So, never know. Fingers crossed, they could be good. But, if you look at
We
England,
got Sancho. We don't need him.
we've got Sancho, we've got Rashford, we've got Sterling. We've got an abundance of players to pick from on that wing.
You can never have too many, can you?
No, and obviously when...
Could do with a left back.
Yeah.
Play there.
That'll be like when Wednesday had Josh Lahuka, we signed George Boyd and played him at left back instead of wing. Unbelievable.
So we've had a chat about a few of those games. There are 9 in total this weekend. I'm sure if you're listening to this, all football fans are desperate for it to be back. They're all on BT Sport. That's not a plug. They're not a sponsor.
Oh, no,
Want to sponsor us?
Not yet.
Yeah, feel free.
Feel free.
Yeah,
Need the money.
They are all live.
But if they are watching, they can get us free Bundesliga package.
Retro shirts. Everyone loves a good retro shirt.
Will of course be the one which most people will watch, but of course there's also Paderborn with Dennis Sabani if you fancy a bit of that.
I'll be watching Leipzig.
Premier League goal scorer Sam will be watching Leipzig. Look out for his report on Vavel. Sam, what's your Twitter so that they can go and find it?
Sam_Allen 567.
There we go. Sam's report will be there. Are you doing a live for that game as well, Sam?
I don't think so.
Don't think so.
Definitely doing a report.
Yeah, just be there.
There'll definitely be a report.
That's going to be more editing now to put your handle. You're going to have to do like a Benitez.
So I think it's definitely something which we are looking forward to. Maybe one of the problems which the Premier League has had is that some of their players have not been sticking to the rules.
Naughty.
We've seen several over the weeks of lockdown. The latest this week is Morgan Gibbs-White. He attended a party in lockdown last weekend, I think. So breaking lockdown rules, of course. Wolves will presumably take disciplinary action. What do we make of this? He's obviously young, but there's no excusing it, is there?
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. There's especially in football, there's a tendency to be more role model. You have to be a role model. You have to watch everything you do. Every tweet has to be checked. And these are the examples. And like last week when we said that we criticised Public in the first episode, saying that they'll not probably be able to stay away from games and congregating outside stadiums. But it does seem that there's a big problem with our footballers not being able to control themselves. In the past we've had Kyle Walker, he's another one. Jack Grealish was the first big one that came out, and you're looking at some of the, especially Grealish and Morgan Gibbs-White. They're going to be a future of England, and they're already putting a damper on their chances of breaking into that talented squad that we've got coming through, especially with how Southgate likes to operate and keep a healthy mentality and players that people can look up to. And they're just, Gibbs-White has featured a lot. And, when Matinho and Ruben Neves are calling you a talented young player, you've got something about you. And just by doing this is putting a really, really bad name on yourself.
We should mention as well, I think Tim Spears of The Athletic, who's the Wolves reporter, I saw his latest on this last night, and he said Nuno will definitely discipline him, and he'll spend time, I think, training away from the team, because I think Wolves were one of the first teams to come back to training. I know they're all training apart, but even more distance from the team. But he also said that he will back his player all the way. So I think that's something Nuno wants to do. I know a couple of us have spoken to some Wolves Academy players before, and they all seem quite excited for what Nuno's doing with the Academy. So clearly he's trying to continue that with this and keep bringing Gibbs-White through.
It's just unfortunate, really. It's very unfortunate, obviously, that footballers have that reputation that Devon mentioned, and they've been scapegoated to hell during this whole coronavirus pandemic. And obviously, there's so many footballers that are doing great things in their communities and working with charity. This whole Players Together initiative, of course. So it's a huge shame, like players like Gibbs-White, Walker, Grealish are doing things like that to tarnish the names of a lot of these footballers.
We mentioned, you say the footballers have responsibility, but I've completely forgot what my point were going to be then. We'll move on to the Kyle Walker responsibility. He did break a lockdown rule by having the sex workers come to his house for that time, and then subsequently a week or two later, trying to soften it up a little bit.
We know what they are.
It sounded like you were going to go into a chant then, but then he went.
Allegedly.
He drove up to South Yorkshire in sunny Sheffield, as you can tell by the light. But he went to visit his parents, pick up some home cooked meals, and visit his sister, which he definitely said about it being because of the hard time that he's gone through. That he backed his own belief to go up there. Do you think this was the right thing to do? Which, if you want my opinion, no.
For me, there are helplines out there, and I feel sorry for anyone that's struggling at this time, because it must be really difficult if you have really bad mental or any health mental issues at all. But for me, there's helplines for a reason, and there's the Premier League would certainly help out. That club would certainly help him out. And as bad as it sounds, there isn't an excuse. Unfortunately, there isn't an excuse, and he shouldn't have done it. But hopefully, this is a learning curve for him. Hopefully, it's a learning curve for Jack Grealish and Morgan Gibbs-White to realise, you can't be doing this sort of stuff.
Yeah, this lockdown does make you do crazy things. I know people watching this video now are doing a crazy thing by watching us trying to
crazy thing. That's what it is. It's slow.
Crazy thing.
There's only me that survived the lockdown cuts at the minute. George got
the prison.
Got
the prison cut.
No clippers again anywhere.
Those delightful locks.
He's loving the Alice band. Mine are just at the side, are just constantly growing out. It's looking like I'm going to come out with an afro soon. But there's other examples like Aurier and Sissoko trained together and apologised for it. Marino did a one-on-one session with Tanguy and Dombele. And then obviously the big one was one of the first big ones after Grealish was Mason Mount and Declan Rice playing together after Callum Hudson-Odoi was tested positive. It's just every time one of these stories comes out, it's a longer step for football being safe enough to come back.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. I think everyone just wants an end to it now. I know we're not going to get that immediately, of course, and it's going to be a while until fans can go back and we feel like we're back to normality. But the players just need to stick at it, and hopefully we will see fewer of these stories coming about.
Do what you told them. Fourmation podcast.
We should say as well, I'm going to try and make a link to the next part of the show, but it's not a show. It's
Don't say that.
In week one, we spoke a lot about Newcastle and their takeover, and it would seem that every single week there's going to be a big name player linked to Newcastle because of the supposed millions that they're going to have to spend. This week it was Gareth Bale. He's obviously been linked with a move back to England for a couple of years now, supposedly not very happily in Madrid. Well, not supposedly. He's made it very clear that he's not.
It's very clear, yeah.
In that order.
Harry, can you see this happening? Can you see him coming to Newcastle?
The thing is, his wages will be extortionate, and he's on the wrong side of 30, I believe, for a footballer who's still looking for a big money move. But 53 million, if they're willing to offer him that, willing to offer Real Madrid that, they'd probably bite the hand off, to be honest with you, because that's over half the fee. Do I think it will happen? Probably, to be fair. Looking back on it, if there's one signing that they want to make, just to say, we're here, we're in the football industry, and not everyone wants this guy, but we can pay this sort of money for one player, I think he'll be that sort of Robinho sort of signing that Manchester City had, just to show, yeah, we're here, we're going to start building, and then they'll start bringing in younger, better players. But I find it really difficult to say this before it actually goes through, because even now it's not official. But if it does go through, and that's the assumption that we're going to make, it probably it's a transfer that I can see happening. It's certainly a transfer I can see happening.
I agree. I think in a way, Bale might like the idea of coming to a club and him being the player that everyone else relies on. He went to Madrid and Ronaldo was still there, and there's all sorts of myths about how they maybe didn't get on, but we can't really any of it. But I think he enjoys holding that responsibility at Wales, and he might enjoy it at Newcastle. And if they've got the money, they can get him.
It should come
they'll definitely need the money, that's for sure. Obviously, he was on the verge of that move to China last summer, and there were reports that he'd be on £1 million a week. So I don't know. I don't think Newcastle. I don't know. They might be able to offer that, but I don't think they'd go for it if those are the sort of demands that he was putting on the table. It's unlikely for me, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely just because I think a lot of it is, and it gets thrown about, and it's in our profession, is that journalists are trying to sell stories, and this is you look at it makes logical sense in a way that they want a marquee player when this new company comes in, or if it happens, which it's delayed a lot because of the coronavirus, but one player that did get linked last week that's been linked to another club is Philip Coutinho to Chelsea.
You're loving links today. That is superb.
Devon's on
Carry on.
Segway, so I have to.
I've been watching a lot.
He's gone in for your job, George.
But yeah, he's linked. He was linked to Newcastle, of course, like I've just said, but now he's being linked to Chelsea, which, in my opinion, he'd fit into that system more at Chelsea than a lot of the other clubs that he's been linked to. Maybe he might even, if Bayern want to come back in for him, which I don't think they would. I think Chelsea would be a good fit for him. What do you guys think?
I think Chelsea's actually a bit of a strange link for me, considering they just signed Hakim Ziyech, who pretty much plays. He's a very similar player, plays in pretty much the same position. So, I mean, for that reason alone, I'm not sure that Chelsea will be his destination.
They're also continually being linked with Sancho, aren't they? It's going to be one or the other, if not none of them that they sign. They won't sign both. I think that's for certain. Just
looking at Coutinho's links, though, you think you said about Ziyech, but he can operate down the middle, as can a lot of that front, that three behind the striker. Willian, as we'll get on to, looks like he's not going to renew his contract, so that opens up space for Hudson-Odoi to go on that side. Maybe Coutinho comes on this left, and Ziyech or Mason Mount through the middle. It just depends which structure he fits better. We're also forgetting Pulisic, but just got some stats up here. This season for Bayern, he has a higher shooting accuracy than the Chelsea attackers, at 47%. More passes into the final third than the attackers. Passes into the area as well with 32. And then compared to the whole team, he has an 82% higher, an 82% passing accuracy, which is higher than the whole Chelsea squad. Which, if he came in, it'd be a big upgrade, I'd say.
Do you think they'd be willing to pay the fee? Because I think they'd want over 100 million, or at least very close to that sort of fee. Do you think Chelsea would be willing to sign a player of that amount if they've already signed Ziyech for 50? Was it 50 or 60? Or was it? It might have been a bit less.
I think Barcelona are definitely willing to sell. I think it's fair to say that he's been a flop there. So I think they'll be up for selling him in the summer.
I think
obviously the fee.
I think the deal is initially a loan spell. Don't get me wrong, but even just for a season, and if he did flourish and created the numbers that he did at Liverpool, then surely the fee that could come with it will be worth it.
Could he return to Liverpool?
I don't
need him.
Yeah, I think that they've continued the dominance. True. In fact, if anything, they've got a lot more freedom going forward without Coutinho. I know it sounds really silly with how creative he is. But instead of him getting the ball, coming back, and then opening space, they are just getting it straight into that space with that front three. And I think they're more vigorous now without him.
I'd sort of say that he was sort of their headline player, whereas at Liverpool before, whereas now I think they've got at least 3 players ahead of him in sort of that headline role. So I think he wouldn't be the person that they just keep shoving the ball to. I think they'd share it around much more. So I think his responsibilities there may lower quite a lot. That might suit him more, that he doesn't have such a high responsibility on his shoulders. But also, if he's not getting the ball as much, he won't create the similar numbers that people are expecting or anticipating to get if he goes back there. So for me, I've got absolutely no idea where he's going to go, because I just can't see someone paying over 100 million, and I can't really see a system that he'd play in. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes.
And Devon, you mentioned Willian out of contract, of course. 2 of the clubs who are supposedly interested in taking him up are Arsenal and Tottenham. The Chelsea fans sing a song about Willian signing, in which they say that Spurs paid his flight coming over from Russia at the time, because Spurs were obviously interested in him then. Do we think he needs a move to try and find a bit of consistency again? We know he's got quality, but I feel like the last few years at Chelsea, he's never been at it all the time. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's probably. I don't think you could question his consistency, really. I think he's rather underrated in terms of wingers in the Premier League. I don't think he gets held on a high regard as he probably should do sometimes. But the person that brought him to Chelsea really made him sway that way. Mourinho could make him sway back there, and it'd be kind of like a good story if he succeeded at Tottenham, or an even better one if he didn't after the initial move. And in terms of both squads, I think it'd have more of an impact on Spurs with how they play rather than Arsenal, because sometimes Arsenal can be a bit limited.
We'd have to ask Spurs fans to see whether they've forgiven him for that last-minute change of heart. I think he was literally on his way for a medical at Tottenham and then decided to go to Chelsea instead.
I think the story is he did have his medical at Tottenham, didn't he? And then moved to Chelsea.
I don't know exactly. I know it was close.
Spurs fans, let us know. Tweet us in. Put it in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know what you think about
that. Interaction.
Should we maybe mention a striker who Chelsea are maybe looking to bring in? Man United linked to him as well. Moussa Dembele, formerly of Celtic, now at Lyon. Do we think that's a likely move that we can see happening?
It's one that's been touted by the top Premier League clubs for a long time. Before he even went to Celtic, when he was at Fulham, a lot of, I think, Man United, the Chelseas were interested then, could have got him for a much reduced fee. He's gonna cost upwards of 60 million at this point. He's only 23 years old, 16 goals in League this season. So yeah, he's definitely one that could move to one of the top 6 in the Premier League.
I feel like if, compared with Man United and Chelsea, who are both in for him, I think his preferred destination surely has to be Man United, because that's where they're really missing somebody. Like, if they could have Rashford on the wing and have him as a focal point in the middle, a lot of things for that fast attack could come through him.
Do you not think that Rashford wants to be that main man up top, though? Do you think if he was shifted out wide again, he'd be a bit displeased by that?
I think Man United, because there will come a time where I think Rashford may have a dry spell and a purple patch. So I think Dembele would be a better option up front as that sole striker rather than Rashford. With Rashford either playing, Rashford could play just behind him on the wing, coming in with him. But if you have that front three of Martial, Rashford on either wings, and then Dembele, that would be a frightening attack. The main reason why I think this might come into fruition is because with the cancellation of Ligue 1, Lyon have missed out on that European football, haven't they? So if Chelsea could be that stronger link because they are higher, but also Man United could be that proposition with their positive rebuilding at the minute.
thing is, with Manchester United, I'd be concerned if I was Dembele, because I've seen Greenwood play, and I think he's one of the most natural. He always finds himself in a phenomenal position. He can strike the ball probably harder than I've seen a lot of people strike the ball. For me, I think Greenwood should be the man starting up front for Manchester United, and I think if they brought Dembele in, that would block his path of progression. I think Greenwood next season, I think he can be that number 9 for them and play Rashford out on that left-hand side. I think Chelsea probably need him more because, yes, Tammy Abraham's scoring. To be fair, he scored, 13 goals this season? So neither of them are really desperate for a striker. But I think his preferred. I don't think his preferred destination would be Chelsea, but I think he'd fit in better. He'd have a high chance of starting more games. And that's why I think maybe Chelsea are the better destination for him.
Okay, do we think we've covered all the rumours from this week, which means we are only left, if you guys are ready, this week's quiz.
I'm not ready.
Ready? Of course you're ready.
I'm not ready.
I should point out, if you watched last week, you probably saw that we did a poll on our Twitter page at @the_Fourmation. I asked which quiz rounds you wanted. It was a tie. We had the 2019 to 20 season so far. That was tied with Who Am I, the Premier League Managers Edition. We did the season so far last week, which means this week we are doing the Managers Edition. Notepads at the ready, of course. I should point out before we start, this includes any manager who has managed in the Premier League at any point in their career. So it is not simply rooted to the 20 at the moment. Okay, because it would have been too easy that way, wouldn't it? And same as always as well, if you're watching or listening and you've got an idea for a quiz round you'd like to see, let us know, because we will definitely do it. Okay, there are 5 questions. I'll give you 3 for each. And we'll go through the answers at the end. What there?
Harry's just looking for the answers.
Harry's.
I'm trying to find right. Hold on.
You said
this bit. I don't have enough room there, so I'm trying to find a piece of paper that has lots of room. And
He's looking for the answers that you've sent him.
This piece of paper has a lot of room. This piece of paper has a lot of room, so I can do it on there.
If you're ready, question number 1. I've managed 2 clubs in the Premier League. I've won the Champions League 3 times as a manager. I've won domestic titles in 5 different European countries. Sam had his answer down after the second clue. I think he knows it.
I got this one.
If you need
My
any
confidence is at an all-time low from last week, but
Harry's having a thing. It might be worth making some notes on the clues so that you can come back.
Right, so can we just have a re-talk of the clues, just so I can have a little think?
This person has managed 2 Premier League clubs.
Yep.
That's 2 current Premier League clubs. He's won the Champions League 3 times as a manager. And he has won domestic titles in 5 different European countries.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, I'm going to move on to question number 2. I am aged 48. I've been manager of my current club since 2012. 3 players I have managed: Britt Assombalonga, Kieran Trippier, and Troy Deeney. That's your question.
On earth? You're saying they might not be in the Premier League now, or they are?
They could be, or they could not be. They have managed in the Premier League at some point in their career.
Has he managed these players at this club or over at any point?
I can't help you with that. I'm just saying that he's managed.
I'm lost. 48.
Still stuck on the first one.
Maybe this is too difficult. I don't know.
Britt Assombalonga. Who are the other 2? I'm trying to think.
Britt Assombalonga, Kieran Trippier, and Troy Deeney.
Epiphany.
Yes, I've just had the same one, I think.
Yeah.
It might be worth writing them down, Harry. I'll let you do that, and then I'll go on.
I've got to. I'm still stuck on the first one. The first
It's
one's
worth a guess, isn't it? It's always worth a guess. Question.
Keep struggling, Harry.
I have managed in all of England's top 4 divisions. Ooh. I have twice won promotion to the Premier League as a manager. Both times were via the playoffs. And I'm going to tell you now 3 of the clubs that I've managed during that he has managed during his career, and they are Bristol Rovers, Leicester, and Millwall.
I think,
Harry's looking puzzled. He currently holds a 5-point lead.
I'm struggling.
This could be the day. This could be the day.
I'm really struggling. I must say, I'm really struggling. Leicester.
I think
I need to stop getting confident before the answers come out. I really need to stop doing that.
No, that's all right. I think he's always confident.
I think I got.
Always comes back to bite me, but
I think I got this person on your first quiz on the first one.
Well, we will carry on.
I have a clue.
4. I managed in the Premier League during the 2015 to 16 season. I lasted just 147 days in the Premier League job I had. Of my 23 games in charge, I won 3 of them.
Oh, okay, that's changed my answer.
I had Frank de Boer. I'm pretty sure he didn't get 23 games.
It's not Frank de Boer.
He didn't score in any of them to win any of them. So
23.
Okay, so 15-16.
Yep.
Was how many days?
147 days.
Oh no!
3 games.
I can't think of his name.
See, Harry, this is a tactic by Harry. He's just shouted so I can't hear.
No, I can't think of his name.
I've got an answer, but I'm not on this one.
I can't think.
Okay, I'm going to move on again because I don't spend too much time in the breaks. Question number 5. This one's pretty tough, I think. I managed a Premier League team from October 2007 to October 2008. After leaving England, I next managed Real Madrid. 3 players I've managed are Jesus Navas, Adel Taarabt, and Fabio Cannavaro.
What was the first clue? Sorry.
I managed the Premier League team, the only Premier League team that this guy managed, from October 2007 to October 2008. Then he left, and his next job was Real Madrid. Do you want the players repeated as well?
Might as well. I don't. Yeah, go on.
Jesus Navas, Adel Taarabt, Fabio Cannavaro. I'll be impressed if you get this, to be honest.
Adel Taarabt, Cannavaro. Taarabt plays for.
It's not him, but I'll put him down. 4 is just annoying me.
What we'll do, I'll go through the answers now, and if you think of it, if you think of question 5 while you're going, then you can.
I don't even know if this name.
I think I'll get the fat 0. I know I might get 1. I might get 1.
Okay, we're going to start again with question number 1. To be honest, probably the easiest one of the quiz. I'm going to say it. I've managed 2 clubs in the Premier League. I've won the Champions League 3 times as a manager. I've won domestic titles in 5 different European countries. Sam, you wrote your answer down after the second clue for this one. What have you gone for?
Carlo Ancelotti.
Carlo Ancelotti you have gone for. Devon?
I've also gone for Carlo
Ancelotti, yeah. And Harry, did you write that down?
I put Mourinho, hoping that it was a bad question because he's managed 3 Premier League clubs, and I hoped you messed it up. to be honest
George
with you.
slipped up.
Yeah, I was
I
hoping
have
George
to
did a
say
Steven
it was
Gerrard.
Carlo Ancelotti.
Yeah, for goodness sake.
Nice.
I'm
I've
not.
got more than last week.
Oh, who was?
Currently Everton manager, of course. Okay, question number 2.
Yeah.
I'm aged 48. I've been manager of my current club since 2012, and I've managed Britta Sombalonga, Kieran Trippier, Troy Deeney. Harry, I'm going to come to you first on this one. What have you gone for?
I put the big man, Sean Dyche.
Sean Dyche, who, of course, did a lecture at Derby Uni for us. Devon, I'll go to you next.
I've also gone for Sean Dyche.
You've got Sean Dyche too. Sam, can you complete the set for this?
Sean Dyche.
It was indeed Sean Dyche, of course. Deeney and Assombalonga during his time at Watford, and then Trippier at Burnley. Sorry for those headphones.
Uh-oh.
Listeners. Which all of you. Question number 3. I've managed in all of England's top 4 divisions. I've twice won promotion to the Premier League as a manager, both times via the playoffs. 3 of the clubs I've managed are Bristol Rovers, Leicester and Millwall. Sam, I'll come to you first on this one.
There's only one. It's Ian Holloway.
Ian Holloway, you have gone with. Okay, Devon, what have you said?
I've also gone for the mighty Mariners boss, Ian
Holloway. Harry?
I'm having a mare. I didn't know. I put Neil Harris. I'm having an absolute mare.
Neil
Absolute
Harris.
mare.
I have to say, Sam and Devon are on 3 out of 3. Which is...
Can we go for an advert break? I need a timeout just so I can think of the answer for number 4. So I can see his face. I can see his face, and I can't think of his name.
Some of that.
Question number 4. This maybe gets a bit tough around this mark. I managed in the Premier League during the 15-16 season. 147 days in the job. Of my 23 games in charge, won 3 of them.
Oh, it's not going to be this guy. No.
I don't think his name.
Devon, you've clearly got something written down. What have you got written down?
I couldn't think, and I just thought a high profile that might have had a bad time. AVB.
You went with AVB, okay. Sam, what did you go for?
I think this is his name. I put Walter Materazzi. He managed Watford, didn't he?
Harry, what did you go with?
See, I thought it was the Hull City manager that used to be a Manchester United coach, but I didn't know his name, so I put Mark Bowen, and I just can't think of his name. I might be completely wrong. I
think you're thinking of Mike Phelan, Harry.
Yeah, that's the one. But his name.
What I can tell you is that it wasn't Mike Phelan.
That's fine.
It wasn't any of.
That's fine.
Give us another clue.
It was
give us another clue.
Manager Remy
Gard.
Remy Gard.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad
he came up in a lecture we did actually, didn't he? After Christmas. So yeah, none of you got that one right. Finally, the last question, number 5. In charge of a Premier League team from October 2007 to October 2008. This man managed Real Madrid after leaving England after that job. And the 3 players he managed were Jesus Navas, Adel Taarabt, and Fabio Cannavaro. Have you got this one right? Harry, I'll go to you first.
Probably not. I put Gus Hiddink, but I've got absolutely no idea.
Hiddink, okay.
Hiddink.
Sam, what did you go
for? Was it Juan de Ramos?
Juan de Ramos is who you have said. Devon, what have you said?
I've gone Pellegrini, but I thought he managed more.
You've gone.
I thought Capello as well, but I'm pretty sure I haven't managed a Premier League club.
I could only Pellegrini in the last few years.
What I can tell you is that one of you is right.
Oh.
And, it's Sam Allen. It's an excellent. Juan de Ramos.
Yes. I thought
bang on.
Never-
Tarat played
never
for
would have
Spurs,
got that.
didn't he?
Tarat did play for Spurs. That is.
And I think
Oh,
he
I
was
thought
Spurs
Tarat
manager,
would be the
wasn't
one that would confuse you, but there
he?
we have
Premier
it.
League years. Come on.
I will tally up these
I
scores.
just thought Pellegrini might have managed Benfica or something quickly, but you know.
Okay, so the scores on the doors after 10 rounds. If you haven't watched before, we carry over the scores from the radio shows where we did the quiz as well. Harry only got one today, so his lead has dropped at the top, I have to tell you. Devon's in third on 21. Sam has moved up to 23. He's still in second, but he's now only 2 points behind Harry on 25. So it's getting close. We'll have to find a time. Maybe you guys can let us know when you think a good time is to find a winner on the quiz. Maybe we'll say when the Premier League gets back underway, because we
First to
still
50.
don't know when that is. But maybe
Whatever that'll be.
then that casts a bit of doubt. You don't know when it's done. Maybe that's what we'll say. I don't know. But
That's
that's
all to play for.
That is
It's
the
like at the minute, it's like Munich, Dortmund, Leipzig at the minute. If today's episode,
It's got the callbacks as well. Look at him. It's on fire.
Yeah, well, that is a very good place to end this quiz and end this week's podcast as well. We hope you've enjoyed listening or watching. As we say, we hope that you all enjoy your weekend, hopefully enjoy watching some of the Bundesliga. I think it's still going to be a learning curve for everyone, but live football is back on our screens, and I think we all can't wait. Is that right? I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm
find a
George.
way first.
I'm George, and I've been joined by
Harry.
Sam.
And Devon.
There we go. Thank you very much for watching, guys. And as we say, like and subscribe. We haven't actually said that, but like and subscribe. And we will see you next week. Thanks a lot.
Bye.